It is Sunday, May 24th, 2026. It is the 144th day of the year, and things have escalated significantly since the last time we talked because what was already shaping up to be a serious, severe weather week has now upgraded into something that I genuinely have not seen come together quite like this in a very long time. A historic storm system is in the process of organizing right now, and what is about to unfold over the next 5 to 7 days is not just a severe weather outbreak. It is not just a blizzard. It is not just a heat dome. It is all three of those things happening simultaneously on different sides of the country, and the scale and the intensity of each individual piece of this puzzle is extraordinary on its own. Put them all together, and you have one of the most complex and dangerous multi-hazard weather setups that has hit the United States in recent memory. Things have gotten dramatically more serious since the last video, and I need to walk you through all of it right now. So let us jump right into it. Let us start with the severe weather threat, because that is the most immediate danger for the largest number of people, and the Storm Prediction Center has now placed over 20 million people under an enhanced risk of severe weather for today, targeting a massive corridor from the Arkansas and Missouri border region right up through the lower Ohio Valley and directly threatening cities like Memphis, Tennessee, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Evansville, Indiana, and pushing all the way up toward Indianapolis. This severe weather threat is going to kick off during the Sunday afternoon hours, and it is going to rapidly escalate into an extremely dangerous overnight event as a powerful and fast-moving squall line races eastward through the region in the dark. And I want to be very direct with you about what makes tonight specifically so dangerous, because I think some people hear squall line and they underestimate what is coming. This is not just a line of thunderstorms with some gusty winds. The low-level wind shear that is in place ahead of the system right now is extraordinary. We are looking at a 45% probability of significant damaging straight-line winds in the hatched area along and east of Interstate 55 in Illinois down through the Mid-South. Wind gusts of 75 miles per hour or greater are possible as this line pushes through tonight, and 75 miles per hour is hurricane force. If you live in that zone, you're going to see large trees coming down, widespread power outages, and structural damage to buildings that are not built to handle that kind of wind loading. But here's the thing that makes tonight even more dangerous than just the straight-line wind threat. Ahead of the main squall line, we have the real possibility of discrete supercells firing up in the warm sector this afternoon before the main line arrives. And the conditions for those pre-line supercells are coming together in a way that has me watching very closely for an elevated tornado threat this afternoon, specifically across the Memphis corridor and up through western Tennessee and into western Kentucky. The dew points ahead of this system are deep and tropical, the warm sector is wide open, and the directional shear in the lower levels of the atmosphere is off the charts. If any of those pre-line discrete supercells manage to get established before the squall line catches up to them, the conditions are going to be favorable for intense and potentially significant tornadoes this afternoon. And then even after those pre-line storms get absorbed into the main squall line, the tornado threat does not end. Because with this much spin in the lower atmosphere, we are absolutely going to see embedded, quick rotating tornadoes within the line itself as it races east tonight. Because this is primarily a nocturnal threat for a huge portion of the affected population, you absolutely must have multiple ways to receive warnings that will physically wake you up if you are asleep. A no AA weather radio, alerts on your phone with the volume all the way up, whatever you use. The bottom line is, if you live anywhere from Shreveport to Indianapolis, your Sunday night is going to be loud, dangerous, and potentially life-threatening. Anytime you see that 10% hatched area for significant tornadoes on a Storm Prediction Center outlook, that means we mean business, and that hatched area is on the map tonight. Now, while all of that severe weather is unfolding across the South and the lower Midwest, the cold side of this same historic storm system is simultaneously unleashing something that the upper Midwest has not seen in quite some time. We are talking about a life-threatening blizzard that is right now beginning to organize across central Minnesota and northern Wisconsin, and it is going to push into the upper peninsula of Michigan through the overnight hours tonight and into Monday. This is not just a significant snowstorm. This is a blizzard in the truest and most complete definition of that word. The surface low at the center of this system is deepening explosively over Iowa right now, and as it tracks northeast toward the Great Lakes, it is going to pull an enormous plume of moisture up into the cold air mass sitting over the upper Midwest. And that combination of explosive low pressure deepening, extreme cold air, and abundant moisture streaming in from the southeast is what separates this event from a typical late season snowstorm. We are looking at snowfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour at the peak of this event. And simultaneously, we're going to have wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour sustained throughout the entire duration of the storm. A combination of extreme snowfall rates and extreme winds is going to produce whiteout conditions that will make travel not just difficult, but literally impossible across a huge swath of the region. Not ready institutionally, emergency management systems are calibrated to probabilistic expectations. Resources are prepositioned based on forecast ranges. Evacuation orders are issued according to protocols developed around historical intensification rates and historical lead times. When a storm behaves outside historical parameters, when it intensifies faster than the system anticipated, when the forecast track compresses the warning window from days to hours, the institutional machinery struggles to keep pace. Evacuation orders that should have gone out earlier couldn't go out earlier because the storm hadn't yet revealed what it was becoming. Shelter preparations were sized for the storm on the previous advisory, not the storm on the updated one. Resource preposition decisions were made before the rapid intensification event rewrote the threat picture. None of the people involved made bad decisions with the information they had. The information they had was wrong. And it was wrong because the storm exceeded the model, and the model was calibrated to a baseline that this storm wasn't operating from. The moment it turned is the moment that deserves the most scrutiny. Not the moment landfall occurred, not the moment the eye wall made contact with the first populated area. The moment before. The moment in the data record where the intensification rate bent sharply upward, where the pressure drop accelerated, where the wind speed curve went from gradual to steep. That moment represents the failure point of the entire predictive chain. Every warning, every evacuation order, every resource decision downstream of that moment was built on forecast confidence that the storm itself was in the process of invalidating. And the communities sitting in that downstream window were left holding the gap between what the forecast told them and what the storm actually delivered. That gap is measured in preparation that didn't happen, in reinforcements that weren't made, in evacuations that didn't complete, in people who made decisions based on one storm and experienced a different one. This is the human cost of forecast-busting intensification events. Not just the physical destruction, which is extensive and real and measurable in the immediate aftermath, but the deeper cost, the decisions made on incomplete information, the preparations calibrated to the wrong threat level, the entire chain of human choices that a warning system sets in motion, and that a faster-than-expected storm renders inadequate before the first gust arrives. The recovery will begin when the winds drop. Emergency teams will move in. Damage assessments will be conducted. Federal disaster declarations will be requested. The machinery of response will activate and deliver real assistance and real relief. People are resilient. Communities endure things that seem unsurvivable and find a way through. But recovery after events like this one carries a burden that the headlines miss. It isn't just rebuilding what was destroyed. It's rebuilding while knowing the next event is coming. While the clock is already running on the window between this storm and the one after it. While the budget allocated to recovery is the same budget that should have been allocated to hardening. While the political attention that briefly focuses on these communities in the aftermath of disaster is already drifting toward the next news cycle. While every repair, every patch, every temporary fix becomes the foundation for the next round of damage because there isn't enough time or money or political will to do the work that would actually matter. Building to a standard that accounts for what the climate is now delivering, not what it delivered in the past. What this storm adds to the record is not just a data point about wind speed or central pressure or storm surge height. It adds a case study in the consequences of operating with outdated assumptions. Every aspect of the failure cascade here, the compressed warning lead time, the structural damage that exceeded design specifications, the recovery deficit already in place before the storm arrived, the institutional machinery responding to a previous version of the threat connects back to the same root. The world these systems were built for is not the world they are operating in. The ocean is hotter. The rapid intensification events are more frequent and more extreme. The seasons are longer. The recovery windows are shorter. And the gap between the climate the models were calibrated to and the climate delivering the actual events is widening with every passing year. Closing that gap requires more than better forecasting, though better forecasting helps. More than improved building codes, though updated codes matter. More than additional recovery funding, though funding is essential. It requires a fundamental recalibration of the assumptions embedded in every layer of the system. The storm models, the risk assessments, the infrastructure standards, the insurance frameworks, the institutional protocols, all of them were built around a baseline. The baseline has shifted. Everything downstream of it needs to shift with it, or we will keep arriving at the same moment this community just lived through, watching the radar, watching the numbers change, watching the gap open between what was predicted and what arrived, watching a storm become a monster in the window between the last advisory and the next one, and finding, again, that nobody was ready. The storm will pass. The data will be analyzed. The reports will be written. The forecasters will study the intensification sequence and refine the models. The engineers will assess the damage and update the load calculations. The emergency managers will review the timeline and revise the protocols. All of that work is real and necessary and genuinely improves the system's capacity to handle the next event. But the next event is already forming somewhere over water that is warmer than it should be, in a month that used to be quiet, under atmospheric conditions that are increasingly favorable in seasons that the old calendars called off-peak. And when it turns, when the pressure drops faster than the models expect, and the winds jump past the previous forecast ceiling, and the warning window compresses, and the communities in its path are making decisions based on information that the storm itself is already invalidating, the question will be the same one it always is. Why wasn't anyone ready? The answer will be the same one it always is. Because ready means something different now, and we haven't finished redefining it yet.